Welcome back. Operation Epic Fury and the Fall of Tehran. Ladies and gentlemen, this past weekend has been quite an eventful weekend. The Ayatollah is dead. The US is at war, and the American First Promise has officially been shredded. The world woke up to a different map this morning. Over the weekend, President Trump launched Operation Epic Fury, a joint US-Israeli strike on Iran that has reportedly killed the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. While hawks in Washington are cheering the obliteration of Iran's command structure. What a word. Obliterate. The home front is in chaos. New polls show only 27% of Americans support this war. And even Trump's most loyal MAGA voices, like Tucker Carlson, are calling it a betrayal of his promise to end foreign entangles. With U.S. bases in the region already under retaliatory fire and oil prices surging, the president is now fighting a two-front war, one in the Middle East and one in the halls of Congress. So we've seen Trump raid Venezuela. That wasn't too long ago. We covered that story. But this is a global earthquake, many people are saying. Now, the question is this. As the president just walked into the very quagmire he spent a decade mocking, the sharp edge is yours, Chief. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think he got himself entangled now. He's worked himself to a quagmire. Even more than a quagmire, is a kind of debacle, and he would need the prayers of all of us American citizens, so such that also that it all does not end as a fiasco. Now, what are we talking about here? You call it obliteration. I even look beyond that. It's the decapitation of the entire leadership structure of the Iranian country. Of course, this country that we're talking of is a civilization that is almost 3,000, 5,000 years old. If you hear of the talk of Babylon in the Bible, it's no other place other than old Persia. And Persia is same as Iran. So with other prominent countries such as Abyssinia, that is today known as Ethiopia, and probably Liberia. Those were some of the few countries that were never colonized during the balkanization and partition of several places in Africa and Asia. And so they have always been very headstrong. And Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, yes, he's taken down. While alive, he was a polarizing figure. And the lesson of the fact that he was taken out could only be grounded in the fact that a leadership, whether elected or self-declared, like the one that the 1979 revolution of the clerics in Iran, such that that kind of thing that evolved from there, how to govern by through the trust of the people, the approval of the people, not taking on its own people. Apart from what has been well articulated about how evil that administration has been, not even with the first Ayatollah, that Khomeini, that passed on in 1989, paving way for Khamenei or Khamenei, who came from the village of Khamenei or Khamenei down there in Iran. You know, he took things way to the extreme notch. And there were times through the option of balloting, when some presidents had come trying to modify or reform things, Khamenei himself became an obstacle to all that. And as recent as a few months back, the world witnessed very gory, macabre, and tragic mass killing of opposition figures across Iran. And that certainly could not make anybody happy or excited about the fact that this guy and the leadership which he represented, which he symbolized, should not fall. However, everybody that thinks of the what's it called, the legality under international rules, that a whole country's a spiritual leader or symbol of a country's sovereignty was taken out the way Khamenei was taken out this past Saturday, would question what America was doing there. The fear is that probably President Donald J. Trump, although maybe acting out of concern for the suffering people, the majority of the suffering people of the country of Iran, what people suspected is that he probably allowed himself to be manipulated by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We do not have all the facts. When people go to work or when they declare unilateral action, certain things must be looked into. We don't have access to the kind of intelligence that prompted Trump to do what he did. We do not have we do not have such access. We do not have such privilege. However, we cannot be blinded to the fact that wars do not produce any positive thing, because ultimately, at the end of the day, people will still have to sit down at the round table and negotiate. So why put the thing that ought to be the last to be the first? Beyond that, where is the all-important congressional approval for this to take place? Honestly, like I've always said, if you corner President Donald Trump on an issue, he finds a way of taking attention away from that. I do not really want to say too much at this point, because when a nation is at war, whether in Nigeria, it's Nigeria or the United States of America or any country for that matter, anywhere in the world, there must first be that support for the troops. Mark my word, the troops, not for President Donald Trump at this moment, because his agenda is foggy, it is fuzzy, and it looks to me like something that has more to it than we know at this point. And let us think of what this portends for the world. Already, you see Iran going the way of widening geographical retaliations. 3,000 miles to Cyprus, there had been an attack. I do not know what that is for. 3,000 miles to Oman, on the, what's it called? Western and eastern flanks of the Arabian Peninsula and elsewhere there. They are just attacking. And I hate to talk in a way that shows insensitivity to the plight of people that are visually challenged. I don't want to say that, I want to use the popular mantra that probably the Iranians are fighting like a blind man with the stick. But here, I think the response of Iran is beginning to take the dimension of trying to globalize the entire fight to stoke a third world war. I do not know if this is the threshold of it, but what I see here is a situation in which the world is already beginning to catch some, it's beginning to sneeze because of this ongoing action. Today, oil prices have tanked, especially in the critical places that you will think, because the entire Arabian Peninsula produce about 40% of the total global oil supply, crude. And then now, because of this action, already the price has jacked up to about $80 per barrel today, and nobody knows when this is going to stop. But what we know is that this is already precipitating a major inflation globally. And for people that are looking at it as, oh, is this the war that will end all wars? Certainly not, because nobody is that angry, nobody is that crazy to want to attempt what has always been known as mad, mutually assured destruction, by trying to put the finger on a nuclear bodies or nuclear missiles. And that is what Netanyahu said his argument has always been, to make sure that Iran does not have that capability. And really, with what has been going on, just shooting in all directions and grinding international aviation, making sure that civilian populations are also become illegitimate targets. You would understand that, nobody should have trusted the government in Iran with acquiring ballistic missiles or nuclear facilities that could endanger the rest of humanity. This is one push the world has really embarked on for, since the end of the Second World War. And now that is appearing to be already elusive, So the point we're making here is that this situation would have to be managed. And if going to war, thinking that the MAGA base in America would rally support for him, or would guarantee some level of success, victory at the midterm polls later this year, I think it's so obvious now from the polls that are already showing that maybe around 27% of Americans wish President Donald Trump well in this adventure, or do we say misadventure? Whatever happens, the troops would continue to have our respect, and we think this should be done in a surgical fashion, and everybody should just sheath the sword and make sure that we have a better world. However, this is also an indication that we may continue to find ourselves increasingly isolated because of some of the hot-headed actions that we are taking. Are these interests are these actions in the best interest of the United States of America? Nobody would be able to say for now, but on the long run, let us see what will come out of all this. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. With that being said, this is crazy. These are the last headlines within the last about 15 minutes ago. Trump warns Iran about larger strikes as U.S. urges Americans to depart region. This is on CNN. The New York Times says, this is 4 minutes ago, Trump suggests extended war on Iran as U.S. adds to forces in Middle East. Then CNBC, Iran war, U.S. embassy in Riyadh hit by drones. So those are some of the things going on around the world with regards to the story. We'll keep an eye on it. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications.
Sorry, one more addition. More addition. Okay. Already we see people taking to the streets in Karachi, Pakistan, and elsewhere, protests but I want to ask, this thing that is leading to infants and whatever calling for death, making a war cry of death to America, this to Israel, on the streets of Nigeria. We have more than enough issues in our land of birth, Nigeria, than to want to die by other people's issues and wars. Because the way our people get unduly excited about protests and the way government permits for that, They don't even allow pro-democracy protests to go in Nigeria peacefully, and they allow all these people to march together to one of the shouting death to this, death to that. Wrong ideology, and the government must be proactive, because if whatever they are doing, they have snowballs out of control. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would have to accept responsibility. So this is a good time for them to nip whatever is going on in Nigeria in the bud.
All right. Hit like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so we're notified when we go live. Join the conversation in the comments. We would like to hear from you on these stories. We'll be right back.